Hey everybody, I'm Christy and you're joining me here on the rooftop of my building where I live in Oakland, California. It's been 2.5 weeks since the shelter-in-place order began, and my husband Andre and I have taken to doing some pretty creative things to entertain ourselves while we are stuck in our apartment. We had a pretend casino date night in our living room, which was pretty fun, and we streamed it on Twitch. Obviously, there's no live poker right now, but I was fortunate enough to play and record a couple live poker sessions before the shelter-in-place order took effect and all the casinos in the Bay Area closed down. So let's go over those hands now. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bankroll Challenge. This is video number 3. In case you haven't seen my previous videos, I will include the links for them down below in the description box so you can check those out. I've been encouraging myself to play more no-limit Texas Hold'em, and I've taken $300 and I'm trying to run it up to $1,300 so that I can buy some new camera equipment. The first couple hands I'll review in this video, I played at Lucky Chances in Colma, California, which is just south of San Francisco. I played in the 1-1-2 no-limit Texas Hold'em game there. And just a quick reminder, to limp in this game, it's $4. And if there is a straddle on, which at this casino they call it a kill, and you can do it from any position except for the button. If the straddle is on, which is $4, it is $8 then to limp. In this first hand, we're in the big blind with pocket fours. I've already chipped up quite a bit, playing just a few hands, but getting really lucky. So I have well over $400 in my stack, and I cover the other players at the table. The player immediately to my left has the kill button on, which means he's put $4 out voluntarily, and he's going to be the last to act. For anyone to limp in, it's going to be $8 for them to limp in. So there's 2 limpers, and then it folds back around to me in the big blind with pocket fours. I think this is a great opportunity to raise, knowing that my opponents are not super strong and I have a pair. So I go ahead and I put in a raise, and I size up a little bit to $35. 3 times the last bet plus the loose change. It's pretty much like a pot size bet if you're playing PLO. 2 players fold behind me, and the button is thinking, and then he decides to go ahead and toss in the chips for a call. So we are heads up to the flop, which comes ace, king, deuce with 2 clubs. That ace and that king on the flop basically scared me, and I decided to go ahead and check. But the good news is that my opponent checks back. The turn is the 3 of spades, bringing in the backdoor spade draw and also straightening cards to the wheel. I want to try to push my opponent off his marginal hands and charge him for any flush draws that he might have. So I go ahead and bet $60. I chose his sizing in part because of the size of the pot, and also because he only had about 70 chips in his stack anyways, so I wanted to go ahead and commit his stack if he wanted to continue playing. He takes a while, counts out the remainder of his chips, and ultimately decides to shove his whole stack in there, which was $71. So I had to call $11 more, which I wasn't thrilled about. I was hoping for a fold, but he went ahead and put all of his money in. And at that point, I have a couple outs. Even if he does have me beat with an ace or a king, I can still hit a 5. I feel like the pot is big enough for me to try drawing to a 5 to make a wheel, or a 4 even if a set could save me. So I go ahead and I toss in the $11, and we are heads up to the river, which is the 6 of hearts. No help for us. We still have a pair of 4s. My opponent turns over deuce, 4 of spades, which honestly had me confused at first. I had to look at his hand a few times to realize that he only had a pair of 2s. And I was surprised that he was putting his money in, but then I realized, well, he has a flush draw, he has a wheel draw, and we were playing this hand during the high hand promotion at Lucky Chances, where if you make a high hand starting at aces full of kings, you get a high hand bonus. And the bonus for a straight flush is like $200 or something. And I've noticed, I forgot about this, but I've noticed that people play really differently during this high hand promotion. People will often check down the nuts or play really loose and wild with hands that they might not normally play. So maybe he would have played that way regardless, but it's possible that it factored into his decision to go ahead and shovel his chips in there. He had a pair, he had a flush draw, and he had a wheel draw. So he did have quite a few outs there. I'm just lucky that one of the safeguards came on the river, and I got to scoop this nice big pot with a lowly pair of 4s. I shouldn't say lowly. Pocket 4s have saved me many times. Pocket 4s are great. That's a great hand. In this next hand, our table has gotten a little bit short. I think we're about 6 or 7 handed. I'm in the cutoff with 3 deuce of diamonds, and when it folds around to me, I decide that this is a great place to put in a semi-bluff and go ahead and raise. What factors into my decision is the players in the blinds. They're playing a kind of weak and a kind of tight game, so I figured I could maybe push past them and just steal their blinds. And if not, this is totally a playable hand. So I raised to $12. Sure enough, the players behind me fold, but the small blind and the big blind both call. The flop comes Jack, Jack, 9, rainbow, and when my opponents check to me, this is the perfect board for me to fire out a small bet to get folds from them. I will quickly hear from anybody that has a hand, but I go ahead and I bet $15, both of my opponents fold. It's really hard for them to have a hand on this board that they want to continue with out of position versus the largest stack of the table. Simply put.
Thank you.
Okay, quick update. Because we're not able to play live poker and we had to cancel the poker meetup game we'd scheduled at Lucky Chances, it will be postponed to a later date, but that was such a huge bummer. I've been missing playing a lot, and I know other people who are also missing poker. We don't have very many good online poker options here in California. So I'm going to be hosting a Pokerstars home game on Saturday, April 4th. Details down below in the description box. If you're interested in playing this Pokerstars home game, send me a message through Instagram, Twitter, or you can email me at justchristyb@gmail.com, and I will get you the details about that. Hopefully I'll be able to get Charles, Andrew, and Q from P's and Q's Poker Vlog there. I want to try to stack them, at least have fun, because I haven't gotten to see them since we had to postpone the meetup game. So let's have some fun as best we can. Okay, I'm back. A couple things to note about the California Grand Casino is that there's often a long list. The few times that I've been there have been a lot of players on the list for the Holdem games. They also have a lot of limit Holdem games. The good thing is that there's a decent waiting area and a self-serve coffee, tea, and hot chocolate area that is pretty nice. Those of you who watched my last video will remember that I wasn't able to take video at the table because there's a no phones on the felt policy, but I did get this handy dandy little cell phone stand, and I took this with me and I was able to record some video with this and my phone mounted on the rail. So it took me a little bit to kind of get the angle right, so bear with me, but let's go over a couple hands from that session. I buy into the 2-2-3 no limit Holdem game at California Grand Casino for $200, and I start off running really great again. In the big blind with pocket queens, the flop comes down ace high with a flush draw, but I continuation bet and take that pot down. In another hand, I have pocket kings in the small blind. I raise pre-flop. Then the big blind, who is next to act and is short, has less than $100 in his stack, moves all in. I'm very happy. Everybody else folds. And naturally, we call, and it's a cooler situation for him because he had pocket queens. The board runs out clean, and we scoop a nice big pot right there. There are plenty of other hands where I just miss and fold, and other small pots that I take down by c-betting on the flop. I think the most interesting hand I played during the California Grand at this session, and probably No Limit Hold'em's most popular hand, was pocket aces. We are dealt pocket aces in early position, and there is one limper in front. I raise it up to $15. The player on my immediate left calls. The player 2 to my left puts in a raise to $55. It folds back around to me, and I am ecstatic. I'm ecstatic that this player wants to be in this hand and put more money in because we have the best starting hand ever created in the game of No Limit Texas Hold'em. Now the choice here is to call or to raise. Obviously folding is not an option. Because the player to my immediate left is short stacked, he's actually the same player that I got all in kings versus queens with, I want to give him the chance to shove again and put more money in. And I think if I raise, I might push him off of a mediocre hand that he could be calling with. So that factors into my decision to just smooth call right here. I also like the smooth call because it disguises the strength of my hand. If my opponent who raised does have kings or queens, if I re-raise, that's pretty much alerting him to what I have because I'm not balanced enough. I'm not balanced enough of a player in this low limit game to be, four betting hands like 5-4 suited and stuff like that. I'm not doing that. I'm only going to be four betting the very top of my range, including pocket aces. So I go ahead and I just smooth call. Our plan doesn't quite work because the player immediately to my left, the short stack, decides to fold. So now we are heading 2 ways to the flop out of position with pocket aces. The flop comes 7-4-7 with 2 clubs. I do have the ace of clubs in my hand, so I am really not worried about the flush. I'm also not worried about the 7. The only hands I'm actually putting my opponent on are jacks, kings, and queens, and the very unlikely pocket aces. Since I have 2 aces in my hand, that's not likely at all, but sometimes that does happen. So I really don't think he's gonna be 3-betting me with any hands that's not a pocket pair. I don't think he's quite capable of doing that. And I block the nut flush draw, which would be ace king of clubs. So naturally, because my player has announced pre-flop that he has a hand, I am gonna check it to him, play the passive lady route, and let him put the money in. So he does. He bets 75. And he has maybe about 350 behind. I have him covered. So now there's a decision point. Do I want to just call or do I want to raise? And I decide that I want to raise. I want to put more money in the pot. Though check raising is a super strong move, if he has a hand like kings or queens that he can't get away from, I want to give him the opportunity to put more money in. So that's what I do. He bets 75 and I put in the check raise. I make it 200. He seems perplexed for a little while, a little bit annoyed, starts talking about how I could have disguised my pocket kings pre-flop by calling, which then makes me think, oh, maybe he does have pocket queens because he's saying I have pocket kings, unless he's using some reverse psychology type of thing and he has pocket kings. Either way, he has a strong hand. He thinks about it for a little while, then he puts in the call. The turn is an offsuit 6. I think it should be a pretty inconsequential card. It would be very hard for him to be playing pocket 6s like that, or 3-5 or 5-8, whatever the straightening cards are. It's pretty obvious to me that he has a big pocket pair. Now the pot is massive and he has maybe 225, 250 in his stack, and I have him covered. I decide that checking here might be a bad move because then he could easily just check back and then he gets to see a free river card. So I decide to go ahead and put the rest of my stack in. He thinks about it for a while, seems irritated, then he shows pocket queens and folds. I don't show my hand this time. I just fold, scoop in the chips, try to act gracious. And my opponent actually proceeds to talk about this hand for a long time. As I was actually leaving the table later on, I told him my hand and he started lecturing me. He started lecturing me about how I played my hand wrong. So, it's funny because during the hand, he was saying, oh, I guess you play kings good by not raising pre-flop. But later on after the hand, as I was racking up and leaving the table, that's when he decided that actually I played the hand wrong and he wanted to lecture me about it. Hello and welcome to a new segment I'm calling Christy's Couch, where I give you a piece of advice on poker and life. Today's topic is be grateful. Sounds simple, I know, but it isn't always that easy. This is especially relevant in poker. When you make a conscious effort to be grateful and focus on the good things, you will inevitably find new opportunities for success. If you're playing a tournament and you get a difficult table draw, instead of thinking about how you hate that player on your left and how they're such a crusher and they're gonna make every round difficult for you when you're in the blinds, try instead to notice the good things about the table and notice the spots where you can succeed. Notice the players that are weaker, notice the areas where you can squeeze, notice the good things, because those are gonna be the opportunities for you to find success. Gratitude is a winning poker strategy and definitely a winning life strategy as well. So after these two extremely lucky winning sessions, I am happy to report that we are up well over $1,300 in the bankroll challenge. Over 29 hours of play, I am up $1,955. So very grateful for that. Very happy to be able to purchase some new camera equipment. Wait a second. You know, I don't think I'm done yet. I think I found some different camera equipment that I want that is way more expensive. So maybe this bankroll challenge isn't over yet.